Hey, what's up? I'm the Kind Assassin. Welcome back to my series on the Acolyte. Today's video is about episode 3, Destiny. So before going into the episode, I just wanted to share some of the questions I had after the first 2 episodes. The main one being, will we be getting the backstory of what happened on Mae and Osha's home planet? What was this fire that destroyed everything? And then I figured it's probably still too early to get all of that background, but still, that's a big question. The other question I had is about the leader of the Acolyte. Will we be seeing him in this episode? And, who is he, obviously? And is he with any of the factions or groups that we've already been introduced to throughout all of the movies and shows? Or is he part of a brand new group? Just curious on when we're going to see more of him. Also, at the end of episode 2, we saw the Wookiee Jedi reveal, and I'm just curious, are they going to follow the formula of the first 2 episodes where a Jedi gets killed in each one, right? So the first thing I noticed off the bat is the episode name, Destiny, is the first one that isn't a dichotomy. Episode 1 was Lost Found, episode 2 was Revenge Justice, and this one was just Destiny. So I thought that was interesting to know why the change. Obviously it has to do with the storyline, and maybe we'll get some clues as to why as we watch the episode. So it was funny that the opening shot of this episode was the home planet of Mae and Osha, right? It's called Brendok. And so I guess I am going to find out what happened and get that question answered. I thought it was going to be too early to do it, but here we are. So really we start with Mae and Osha as kids. And Osha is sitting by a tree, beautiful tree, and we see a flying little creature like a bird thing or butterfly thing flying towards Osha, and it's really beautiful. And then suddenly it seems like the flying creature is being force choked, and I thought, wait, why would Osha be doing that? That's kind of cruel, right? But then it cuts to Mae. Mae's there too, kind of snuck up on Osha, and she then force chokes the creature again, and Osha tells her to stop. This made me think, was Mae always evil or just had bad tendencies already as a kid? So, who knows, right? So after Mae and Osha have their little talk, they're not supposed to be out there. We find out from Mother Anisea. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. She's, found them, and she's like, go back home. It's not safe out here.
How many times have I told you it is not safe out here?
And so again, another question, what's going on? It seems like they're in hiding. And sure enough, we see a Jedi, and it turns out to be a younger version of Soul. And he is kind of spying on them, following them. So, what's going on? Why are the Jedi spying on them? Why is Osha and Mae's group in hiding on this planet? So let's see if we find out as we go along the episode, right? The main storyline in this episode is Osha and Mae's ascension, which means they are going to become witches. So they are the children of a coven of witches, and they are led by Mother Coral. And Mother Anisea, we come to find out, is the one that actually carried Osha and Mae and gave birth to them. So they're both mothers, and maybe all of the witches act as mothers to the 2 girls. And so the ascension is the ceremony for the girls to become witches. So the only time I've seen witches in this universe is in the show Ahsoka, in regards to Morgan and the 3 witches that were helping Thrawn, the witches of Dathomir. And so question for me is, are these witches like a different coven? And also we find out that they were somehow hunted down or kind of attacked or suppressed by, I believe, the Jedi or some other groups. So just curious, why the witches always seem to be, people are out to get them. Is it because they can be more powerful than Jedi? And Mother Coral actually does say power isn't really about good and bad, as she's trying to explain to Osha, trying to convince her to become a witch. But Mother Coral did say, this isn't about good and bad. This is about who can wield power.
This isn't about good or bad. This is about power and who is allowed to use it.
And it seems like the Jedi have decided that they are the ones, the only ones in the universe that can wield the power. So then we get to the Ascension ceremony. Mae is very excited. She wants to do it.
I do.
Osha doesn't want to do it.
I too.
She's very apprehensive. She doesn't want to go through with it. She doesn't want to be a witch. And Mae and the mothers are trying to convince Osha, like, you have to, this is your destiny, right? Like, you need to be a witch. And it seems like the witches are kind of desperate to make them witches because it seems like they're dying out. And there's something shady going on with how Mae and Osha were even created to begin with. They're very protective of them, right? Like, I think it's just their species is running out. Like, this is the only hope for them to continue. So they're like really want them to be witches. Something I noticed that seemed confusing to me or just didn't seem authentic between Mae and Osha was their relationship. When we saw the girls in the very first episode in that flashback scene, and even in this episode, there's a little, I don't know if it's a poem, but they have this thing they recite to each other about kind of their connection.
Always one, born as two.
As twins, you know, they're one person even though they're two people, et cetera, et cetera. We saw that in the first episode, we see it here, and it's kind of brought up again and again in this episode. It also seems a little bit forced.
You're with me, I am with you. Oshi, I am with you. Always one, born as two.
Because there's a lot of conflict between Mae and Osha. When they were first being introduced to the ceremony, Mae and Osha were kind of like pushing each other and like fighting like, you know, little kids and sisters would do. But there's just kind of this conflict that arises throughout the episode between them. While they may be twins, seems like they have this connection as twins, but it also seems like it's very forced and really deep down, they don't have that connection. So just curious to see how that would play out in the rest of the series. So the Ascension ceremony happens. Mae is the first one to go through with it, and that's how she ends up with that marking on her forehead. So she actually went through the whole thing, and now she's a witch. However, Osha was about to go through with it, even though she was hesitant. They were kind of forcing her to, and as right before it happened, the Jedi come.
The Jedi!
They've sliced the platform. They will be here any moment.
Oh, actually, I forgot to mention in the beginning. Another question I had is, are we going to see Indara again? I really liked her in the first episode. I really like the actress, so I thought, are we ever going to see her again? I've been wondering about this the whole time, right? And come to find out, we do see her again. You know, I kept wondering, you know, she's in promo pictures. She can't be just a minor character, right? And turns out she is back. And it's all four of them, right? The Wookiee, Soul, Indara, and Torben. Torben in this episode doesn't have that scar thing on his face. So that's interesting. It seems like this is when he gets it. So what went down? So they tell the witches, you know, children should all be allowed to test to be a Jedi, right? And again, it just seems like the Jedi are the most powerful and they can make all the laws. And to me, I'm like, why? Like, why do all children? Why do you get first dibs, I guess? It's kind of weird. And the witch is like, no, you can't take our kids. But turns out like they figure out they're there and they, you know, agree to be tested. I think the witches, some of them wanted to fight and kill them. And then other ones were like, no, we can't. We're just going to make it worse for ourselves if we fight them. There's a lot of tension, but the main leader, Mother Coral, she's like, fine, let's go through with the test. Let's try to resolve this, you know, amicably. So Mother Coral is advising, or not advising, she's telling the kids, like, you need to fail this on purpose, right? So whatever is in your heart, you have to say the opposite.
How will we know how to fail?
I don't know what they will ask you, but whatever's in your heart, you must say the opposite.
You have to fail, right? We don't want you to go to the Jedi. You belong here with us. And Mae is on board. She's like, yep, I'm going to lie. And Osha, you got to do it too. And Osha's like, but I don't want to lie. You know, she's very apprehensive again, right? And at some point during this conversation, she says she wants to be a Jedi.
I want to be a Jedi, Mama.
So they go through with the test. Mae goes first. She fails it on purpose, and she's happy, right? Then Osha goes in, and she's lying. So she's doing what she's told, right? She's like, oh no, that's a mountain, or that's a spaceship, or she's lying on purpose.
A mountain.
And then Soul says, yes, that's correct. And then Osha's like, but it wasn't. And she's like, oh shit.
Correct.
That wasn't a
She slipped up, right? Soul's like, what's going on? So then he has this conversation and she admits she wants to be a Jedi. So they go through the test and, I don't know if they really say, but obviously she passes, right? We come to find out she actually goes with the Jedi. Well, she goes with them because of what happens next. So Osha and Mae talk, and basically Osha's like, I didn't lie.
Mama, she promised she would fail, and she broke her promise. I told the truth. It was the right thing to do.
I want to be a Jedi.
I told him I wanted to be a Jedi because I do.
You don't mean that.
I do.
And Mae's mad. She's like, how dare you do this? I'm not going to let you leave. And then this is when the fire happens. Mae locks Osha. Osha's packing up her stuff. She's heading out. Mae locks her in and sets fire to the door with this thing, using her powers. And there's this whole explosion. Osha has to escape through like a little hole, and she ends up in this big room, and there's fire everywhere. And the Mae's there too. And she's like, Mae, come to me. And I was just like, Mae. And then everything's falling apart. And then Soul is there too. Like, let me help you. And, whatever. So it all falls down. Mae gets, the thing falls. She falls. And then Soul grabs Osha and saves her, and they run away. And, they get on the ship and they take off, and you see a castle thing like all burning, right? So that's the big fire. Really interesting part is as Soul and Osha are leaving, they go through like the other rooms, and all of the witches are dead. They're all just like laying on the floor dead. It's like, how did that happen? Like between Mae starting the fire and being in that room that's collapsing with Osha, like, does she have time to kill does she really kill everybody? That's really confusing to me. Something's fishy here, right? Because I don't know why Mae would kill everybody.
Because she's psycho.
It just seems odd, right? Soul's like, let's get out of here. And they just left, right? And then on the ship, we see Torben. He has an injury to his eye. Okay, so definitely we're not getting the full story here. We're just getting the story through Osha's eyes, I guess. And maybe that's why the name of the episode is just one word, because it's just her side. From what we know now, Mae is the one that caused destruction for everything, right? She's the evil one, according to Osha's point of view, right? The way she saw things go down. But I did think it was just weird, like, wait a minute. Mae, she set fire to that thing, and then suddenly everyone's dead, and then they left, right? It just seems very odd. Osha wakes up in the ship, and she's like, we have to go back.
You have to go back. We have to go back.
No, we can't.
We must.
There is nothing back there.
So I was like, no, there's nothing to go back to. Like, we have to go. And, obviously she's devastated, and it's a really sad scene. So the final scene of the episode, we're brought back to the tree that we began the episode with, and we see Mae. So she survived, and she's looking for her sister, but she doesn't find her there. And it's really sad because she's lost everything and she realizes she's alone. But really confusing. I mean, I'm glad we did get some of that story, but there's definitely more that we don't know now. All right, so more questions than answers, or some answers, still questions, new questions. But still, I'm enjoying it. This one was a little bit of a slower burn, but did get introduced to a lot more characters, new places. I do want to learn more about the witches and the Jedi. Like, why were they in hiding? Why do they fear them? Why is there animosity between them? I mean, are we going to get any of that here? Do the witches exist in any other media, canon or not? Maybe I'm missing something. So if anyone knows their backstory, let me know. Yeah, really exciting to kind of keep learning. I still want to see the leader of the Acolytes, get more from him, his backstory, his motivations, and like, how did Torben get that thing on his eye? Like, what really happened? Anyway, Lots of questions, but, you know, really excited to keep going. All right, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Later.